Yun. Okay, start na tayo, JD.
Game, Pats.
Oh yeah, I'll admit everybody's intentions are not
All right. Good day once again to you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Here I am, Pats, and here's JD for today's episode. You know, JD, I'm so excited no for this episode. I mean, every episode naman excited ako, but today's extra special kasi
Uh-huh.
first guest natin na ano eh na kakilala ko eh.
Right.
So, I'm super excited. And yeah, without further ado, I wanted to introduce him na agad, no. So our guest for tonight is a professor from Ateneo de Manila University, and he was my prof personally, no, and he's also the program director of ITE and our thesis advisor as well. So please welcome Sir Joben Ilagan.
Yun, welcome, sir.
Welcome, sir.
Hi, is it good day ba? Good evening? I'm not sure.
Right
Depende,
now,
ano? Yeah.
yeah.
Hi, Pats. Nice to see you again. I'm JD.
Hi, sir. Nice to have you here.
All right, so let's start with the questions na agad, sir. Kasi, we're super excited to have you here nga, no? So, we're curious for our first question. So, how did you start your career and what was your initial career path?
Okay, how do I, this? Parang ito sa miserable start. For context, no, I graduated the business course with a tiny part of technology. So we only had 3 units na programming that time. Uh, well, as much as I graduated management engineering from Ateneo. And,
Mhm.
malaki yung pressure at that time. Okay na mga Tagalog or mix.
Yeah.
How does this go?
Yes,
I'll,
yes.
I'll try to so the holy grail every time we pursue a career back then was to pursue number one a multinational, number two marketing. Yun yung mabango that time. Diba? So,
Mhm.
until now naman ganun yata yung path ng mga students. I don't know if am I right or ano, diba? So ako naman baka hindi litaw ngayon. I'm an extreme introvert. So I felt that I did not fit well in the stereotype na when you graduate this course, you pursue this. And true enough, my first attempt at joining an FMCG, nag-interview kami sa Ateneo pa. So it was my turn. Ang haba ng pila that time. And then when it was my turn, I was asked questions. What are your interests? Ganon. Biglang, I was about to say a few more things about the subjects I wanted, etc. Okay, thank you for your time. Wala pang 5 minutes.
Wow.
So that shook me, and then sige lang, apply in the stereotypical multinational wala. Everyone na mas extrovert sa akin was taken in except me. So that kind of lowered my self-esteem. But that time I was fond of computers, not necessarily programming. So I attempted to join mga ad agencies, yung mga creatives. Because at that time, I don't know kung naabutan niyo yung term na desktop publishing. It wasn't even Adobe at that time. It was Aldo's PageMaker, and then WordPerfect, etc. But anyway, so yun yung mga hilig ko nun. Wala, I wasn't accepted rin eh. So I latched onto the fact that I still wanted computers or something related to it. Kasi yung computer lang nakakaintindi sa akin personally. Na every time I do something to it, gumagana, then instant gratification, instant feedback na okay ka pa naman, you're not you're wrong. If you feel down, at least the computer tells you tama pa rin yung ginagawa mo. So ganong type. Luckily that time there were multinationals then that were willing to take business graduates and groom them via boot camp. uh, to be programmers. So I latched on to that. Mababa lang yung sweldo, but sige. Wala nang tatanggap sa akin nun. Wala nang tatanggap na introvert na. But I was up against the computer science graduates of that time. So ang binato sa akin were tasks involving COBOL. Aywan ko kung naririnig niyo yung COBOL. Mainframe. Then everyone else was into open systems, Unix, and C programming. So, in as much as tinanggap ako doon, so to answer your question, Pas, that was my first career, that's my first job. Programming. I was miserable kasi lumang tech. Tapos nakikita ko yung mga contemporaries ko na they were doing the leading edge stuff. And then I was asking, kaya ko naman yun bakit wala ako doon? Hindi ka CS grad. Sige, fair enough. I'll prove myself, etc. A year passed by, sobrang bato na ako. I wanted to be moved to at least a position na kahit papano related to what I graduated. So business analysis. So I was promised that role and then, pero nag-drag And then nainip ako, I tried applying elsewhere. And then there was this company, back then hindi pa startup ang tawag. It was a newly set up company that wanted to take in people who were into tech and had the business background. So lipat kagad ako doon. Doble sweldo, etc. Not that it mattered, but at least it was a fresh start. Only to, on my first day, yung sumalubong sa akin said na, sino ba nag-interview sa akin? Si ganito, ganun. Nag-resign na yan last week. Oh no. So I was stuck for another year, and being a startup company that time, that was my first taste of a startup na hindi alam yung ginagawa. Didn't know what clients to pursue, etc. So I was stuck there, and I had 10 machines to play around with, yung mga open systems. And nagbasa-basa na lang ako, and then but I saw my computer science counterparts also doing leading edge stuff na naman. So it repeated that cycle. So I decided once and for all, sige, magma-masters na lang ako in computer science. So so yun yung kwento. So that was my first taste of work. Fast forward, and I know you wanted to get into how I got into teaching. I'll discuss it later. But to wrap up the story involving my career, I studied Unix, I studied at that time Oracle databases, etc. Walang clients, but I was studying on my own. I would buy books from SM Mega Mall that time kasi wala pang Google. So I would buy hardbound books, and I would read cover to cover and try out stuff. So that was my life. A year after, Oracle Systems was established in the Philippines. But they were looking for training centers. So nag-scout sila ng training centers, and our office had 10 units that time. So they were looking for a training venue. So tama-tama, nag-walk-in lang sila and then tinur ko sila. These are the machines, Unix. Marunong na ako that time. Wow, okay to. Maganda pa yung furniture niya, etc. Okay, done. We will have our first client. That time it was SSS. Malaking customer yan. Can we send our person to install on each machine over the weekend? Ako naman ang yabang ko. Sabi ko, I can do it for you. What? Nag-training ka ba sa amin? No, but I read your manuals. Kasi iniwan ng nag-interview sa akin. Sa sobrang galit niya, iniwan na lang niya sa office. Kaya ako na lang nagbasa.
Wow.
So, and then, really, can you install it? Yeah, you want proof? I already installed it on one machine. So pinakita ko. Okay, we're convinced. Okay, can you install the rest? Yes, consider it done. So nung nag-training sila the week after, everything was smooth. So that was that. And then I continued with my miserable life there. And then I got a call 3 weeks after. Oracle was pirating me to join them. So that was my, so I went through the interviews, 2 days, tapos I accepted the offer. I spent close to 10 years in Oracle, doing various roles. And I was exposed to different, day one, I was already in a competitive situation. Nakalaban namin yung ibang database vendors. Ang mantra nun sa Oracle kasi is, if you lose a deal because mabagal yung database, you lose your job. So karga ko yan yung winning attitude na yan from day one until I left Oracle. And from the time I started my own business, karga ko yung yung mentality na yan. Don't lose. And So
Got
so
it,
yun,
got it.
I'll stop there and wala pa yung kwento about my own startup.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if we'll touch that.
Sure. True enough, yun ang next question natin.
Oh, okay.
Pero
Yeah.
yung sir, just wanted to say na grabe sobrang vivid nung story nyo, no, from starting out to eventually entering Oracle, which is of course one of the biggest tech companies in the world, no. So very, very impressive. So ayun na nga, sir, no, as you mentioned, no. So what led you to shift from working in the corporate world to joining and eventually building your own company?
In my stay in Oracle, the first few years was dealing with competitors. So na-hurdle ko yon and di naman ako nawalan ng trabaho. After that, it was all about, kasi virtual monopoly to the extent na ang kalaban na lang namin that time was IBM and Microsoft. So the bigger ones. So from competition about yung commodity based, it became a value play, and that's where I learned solution selling. Meaning Oracle only had so much products, and a lot of it hilaw when you sell it to the large organizations in the country. We were servicing PLDT, Globe, BPI, that time. When these large enterprises kasi buy, they're looking for a solution. They're not looking for components. So dun parang connecting the dots from what I learned in that startup company that I mentioned. I knew a bit of C programming, and then I was challenged na one of the first products we built, and tama-tama product development ang team natin ngayon. Extending the product discipline. Oracle had its own, but companies locally wanted more. So we were forced to build products. Actually, hindi official Oracle product. It was a rinky-dink prototype that I built lang. Ultimately, it became what powered Smart Prepaid Buddy. So sa mga prepaid platforms were actually fruits of what we built in the not really a lab, but prototyping from a sales perspective. So yan yung rinse and repeat cycle namin. We show something that works, and then if it's good enough, the company will say, Oracle, may pangalan naman, hindi nyo naman kami tatakbuhan. Sige, game. Can you implement it? So ganun yung rinse and repeat namin. And then paulit-ulit yon. I spent a few years doing that, and then going back and forth with training up until I realized, teka muna, at that time kasi we were training partners of Oracle. And the Oracle partners back then only wanted to sell products. They didn't want to speak solution. They did not want to communicate with the stakeholders. Basta gusto nila benta lang. And then kami naman ng partner ko, may partner in pre-sales that time. I was into pre-sales. Teka muna, kung ganito yung situation natin, tinutulungan natin yung partners, but wala naman yung puso nila. Mag-partner na lang kaya tayo ng Oracle. So that's where we formed Seer Technologies. And then we made sure na lang na before we left Oracle, we were in good terms. So nag-ex-deal kami with the CFO back then. Okay, stay for 1 more year, transition. But we will help you with the innards of how to establish a corporation. We'll teach you things like VAT, how to collect, how to navigate the procurement process. Sige, ito sa win-win situation. And then when we left, we were endorsed kasi we were de facto the best partner at that time already for the technologies that we were pushing na Oracle. And the reason why we called it Seer Technologies, Seer is a synonym of Oracle. So we wanted to project a certain size. Kahit apat lang kami nun, the companies we serve, yung mga PLDT, BPI, thought we were big already. It sounded foreign, but actually apat lang kami, all Filipino. So yun
Yeah.
yung naglakas loob sa amin kasi we already have the support structure, we have the big brother alliance with Oracle. Oracle itself was backing us to go to market, and we have ready access to their large clients. So yan, that's At tapos kasi yung Pats yung sa multinational kasi he can only rise so much locally You know, we'll have to make a decision whether to relocate to the region or to be regional kahit Philippine-based ka pa rin. You end up not making a difference So what will happen there is tagabantay ka lang ng mga country reports and then you report to headquarters. That's not the kind of life I wanted to live. I wanted to make a difference, not just to the community, the customers that we serve in Oracle, but potentially the employees that we provide livelihood. So yung ganong meaning ang hanap namin that time na hindi namin mahanap had I stayed in a multinational position. So that's and that's kind of related also to why eventually I joined Ateneo. So it's that constant finding of meaning na So yeah, I'll stop there.
Yan. Well, sir, tama na naman yung timing nyo. Kasi
Okay.
next question natin is what pushed you to become an educator So, of course, we won't stop you na. Of course, ituloy nyo na po yung kwento nyo after Oracle. So, what pushed you to be
Okay.
educator?
So yung kwento sa Seer, we started not everyone in Oracle was a fan of what we did. Kasi makakalaban namin yung consulting group. Kasi we would serve clients na mas mura yung rates namin local versus a multinational consulting We were being trash talk ng tipong you were already doing well in Oracle, you will throw all that. You know what? We will give you a year. After a year, you will come back. Ginaganon kami. Aba, sige. Yung personality ko, I like proving people wrong. Even yung mga CS counterparts ko when I started working, I proved to them na actually mas malayo na yung narating ko. Yung ganong yabang lang. So we tried to do things the right way. We sought tax exemption from the government. We got it. 4 years income tax holiday, and we broke even. Bootstrap kami. We broke even after 6 months.
Nice.
And we had a combination products and services. Services, we did consulting work, architecture work, and then we carried our we didn't steal intellectual property. We re-engineered the prepaid engine to support some of PLDT's other initiatives involving prepaid landline, etc. So we were earning from intellectual property, hindi yung based on hours. So we were in a very, very good position. Tapos tax holiday pa. And then that went on for 4 years. Unfortunately, well, I don't know kung nakikinig siya or makikinig siya sa my co-founder left. He joined for personal reasons. He joined Microsoft. I was left on my own. I wasn't the CEO back then so tandem kami. He was the CEO. Kasi introvert nga ako I'd rather deal with operations, internal stuff, development. I was forced to be the solo co-founder. So I took on the CEO role and then I had to groom someone for CTO. And then around that time, medyo nagtotoo yung relationship namin with Oracle. We started embracing open source and mobile apps development. So we pivoted a lot since our days from Oracle. So we did mobile apps development, software architecture. Even PLDT, we shied away already. Our large customer after PLDT was Globe. When we started getting into cloud computing, we were the first serious partner of AWS even before AWS came to the country. We were one of the managed partners in the region. Hindi alam ng mga tao to, we actually were the first ones to migrate some of Globe's workloads to the cloud before Globe eventually became the largest AWS customer.
I
So
didn't know
kami
that.
nagsim...
Ngayon ko lang narinig.
Well, ngayon nila na... That was in 2010, for proof, 2010. Globe made that mandate to move everything else in 2015 na, 2014. But 2010, we were already there.
Mm.
So we continued that, and we were servicing Rappler also that time. And so we were servicing the big players. And doon kami napansin ng Surpass Group. So we were eventually bought by the Surpass Group in 2015 when they listed publicly. And naging sister company nga namin yung Storm. Prior to that, prior to that, I already met Dino. Because we were servicing Sear that time as Storm Rewards or Storm Benefits. But anyway, I was asked to stay on for 3 years. Now here's the challenge, and don't worry, I'll eventually answer why I went to Ateneo.
Go lang, sir.
Once we get that initial funding, kasi we were bootstrapped until that time. We didn't get funding. But the moment you get funding kasi, there's now pressure to grow and to pursue bigger contracts. Long story short, we were not organizationally ready. So pinatulan namin yung we got a large energy contract which required us to hire about 40 or 50 people. We were 30 back then. Imagine doubling your size and if you're not ready organizationally. Some of you are into HR, so naintindihan nyo to, diba? Mag-i-implode talaga. And we lost a lot of money that way. And we were not able to recover. One failure after the other, and then ultimately once we reached parang medyo nagka-flatline na. I personally decided na I'm not the right person for this. So iniwan ko sa Surpass yung company. And that's when I decided to go full-time at Ateneo to lick my wounds. Kasi it was therapeutic. Yung teaching na after going through massive failure, convert the failure to something at least the students will be able to benefit from by way of stories.
Yeah.
And parang pahinga muna. Sige, huwag na muna yung every month. Mag-worry ka about sweldo, about Sige. Yun.
When did you start, sir? Sa Ateneo?
Sorry.
When did you start?
2019. Part-time lang. Kasi that time, si Sir Bong Olpok called for teachers. Kasi that time you were transitioning to Python. So at least management engineering was transitioning to Python. Tama-tama. I'm a strong advocate na dapat yung modern languages na tinuturo sa Ateneo. Sige. Enough of that advocacy. Might as well do something myself. So I volunteered. And then around that time, nagkakagulo na sa Sear. And then he offered me the possibility of going full-time. And then along the lines, since full-time ka na, we'll give you admin load, mag-co-program director ka na sa ITE. so the rest is history.
Got it.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess sobrang great segue na naman, sir. But before we transition to the next question, I've been hearing you guys nga din eh. We were a vendor for Globe din around 2012, 2013. And parang si Sear yung sa mga naririnig namin. And I believe parang there was a project power in yun nga, they told us no, yung AWS namin was being managed by Sear. So may real facts, everything that you've said, kasi I was there. I was on the same side as well, on the vendor side.
Okay. That's interesting.
Tapos ngayon
So pioneer pa tayo nun, di ba?
Yeah,
Sa
sa Pioneer
Pioneer.
pa.
Yeah,
Then ultimately, when they transferred to the new
BGC.
office at BGC, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So ang galing sir, and then after that sa Storm pa. So small circle pala no. I mean
Yeah.
very very small world rather. Small circles. Small world pala after all no. Po. I guess transitioning to the question na lang din. I know that you've handled and you became the program director of the ITE. No? But I'm curious. What was the pitch to you, Sir Joben? Na parang, oh, hindi, we need to create this. Parang what was the ultimate problem you're trying to address there?
Ah, yung ITE, I just inherited it. So, actually, yung backstory ng ITE, I only learned less than a year ago. Eh. It was a dramatic start. Eh. Like, who would actually own the entrepreneurship initiative? Will it be computer science or will it be School of Management? So may mga kwentong ganon. And then ultimately, for one reason or another, School of Management was tasked with pursuing it. But back then, and I think you can see the name naman, Information Technology Entrepreneurship. There are no traces of startup, tech venture, etc. So you can feel its age. Kasi contextually, that time, mga 2011, I think it started. It was IT services businesses na parang software development. If you want to start something or create an e-commerce, whatever, diba? Or content management solution. There were certain students back then, to answer your question about the pain, they were itching to get out of the, and sorry if some management students are listening, they wanted to move away from the mold of food, soap, clothes, cosmetics, perfume, etc. They wanted something technology related. On all sides, computer science and MIS students wanted to do that. They wanted to move away from corporate. Yung School of Management students also wanted to get into technology and not something physical, something requiring inventory. So yan yung common yung pain. It was now a question of who owns the program moving forward. Now fast forward, there were a series of experiments, including, okay, if we roll out this program, who will design, who will do the business development, etc. And there were tracks back then. Or you specialize in design, you will specialize in business development and coding. That didn't really work out. And if you are to ask me, if I joined way back then, I would reject that idea. But that's another matter. But yan yung history ng program. Fast forward, when I joined, uso na yung mga startups, etc. And actually, the program had a peak last year in terms of number of freshmen joining. That kind of coincided with the K-drama series na startup. Tapos pandemic pa. So that was the largest freshman batch, 34, 35. Before we only had, or they only had around 3, starting with 1, 2, 3, and then 6, and then Pats, I don't know. I think you shifted in lang, no? But the organic, the original started, I think 10 or 12 lang in your batch. Yeah, around that batch.
I want to know kung sino yung isa-isang student that started it all as a freshman Sobrang feeling ko leap of faith for that person Would you know, sir? Sino?
I'll be honest, I don't. I have to dig into the history kasi when I was through into the program, I had nothing. I accepted it, and then Sir Bong said, "No, just build the content from scratch." Oops. Okay. Kaya ako, nangangapa ako nung time nyo. Kasi I was trying to figure out what content might be useful. In fact, when I start teaching your class, I thought it was mostly technology lang. Like I thought the tracks were still in place. And then I
ITMGT.
think one of you told me, na no, everyone's here. What? This is the whole batch? And I think you were 25, 26 that time.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
ITMGT, sir, no?
yeah, ITM GT 45.
45. Yeah.
I have fond memories of that class, actually.
It was a fun class indeed. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I know we've submitted a bunch of questions, Sir Joven. Pero I want to dig deeper dun sa I mentioned you about dun sa trying to figure things out first. I wonder, or I'm super curious, what was the first iteration of the curriculum? Parang gaano kalaki yung percentage of theoretical versus parang hindi kailangan nilang matuto ng real life experience. Ano yung parang first iteration nun? And maybe you can bridge it to the learnings and how it is now.
Okay, I have glimpses of how it was before my time. Kasi my first attempt at teaching students from this program was with sila Pats.
Mhm.
And then naririnig ko na lang from Sir Bong that that time it was sila Clear pa yun, Francis Plaza at that time. They would do it seminar type. They would organize the classes na parang may themes every week. And then consultation the rest of the time. And then the students were tasked. This is third year and fourth year. They were tasked to come up with an idea that they will pitch. So may external panelists. And then depende kung napariling idea, then they repeat in the succeeding semesters. When I inherited the ang tawag doon third year and fourth year thesis, now we were changing it to capstone. The first time I handled it, I was in a state of shock because the student groups were in varying stages of development. To the point na it was useless for me to pursue a lecture style. We had it planned. I had a co-teacher, si Gian De La Rama, who's also a fellow a startup co-founder. So when we were discussing it, hindi kaya i-discuss to because they're not there yet. So we stopped, we stepped on the brakes, and then we had the students go through the validation board, if you're familiar with that. Just validating product market fit. That's all they did for 6 weeks. And the students were growing impatient because we were not conducting lectures, etc. But we had to make sure that they went through that kasi if not, sayang lang yung oras eh. Parang back to square one. And that paid off. Although we were still holding back on lectures because we were assessing if people were ready. It paid off because at least the students were brave enough to say, no, we're not ready. And Pats kayo rin, di ba? Pivot.
Yep.
And we tweaked the rubric to make it friendly to groups who pivoted. So to the point na if you pivoted, justify why you pivoted and you'd be okay. Di ba? As opposed to pag pinagpilitan nyo, na pivot moment yan, pinagpilitan nyo pa rin yan, bagsak yan.
Yeah.
So that's how we tweak the So sila Pats ang naging guinea pig. And then the batch now, we pushed validation third year, and that's pretty much working. And we introduced a co-founders agreement kasi napansin namin sa fourth year nag-aaway-away. Sorry Pats. Nag-aaway-away pa yung mga groups eh. So we wanted to surface the issues involving teaming. So we organized it in a way of founders agreement muna, and then validation. After validation, do a soft pitch. After the soft pitch, laliman nyo yung customer acquisition strategy nyo, including total available market, serviceable market, and so on and so forth. And then culminate with the financial model. what's your revenue model, and then how do you tie it now to your Tamsam and Song, if you're familiar with that, and then i-revisit nyo yung co-founders co-founder agreement. True enough, after going through that, marami nag-aaway, marami nag-split pa rin the following sem. Okay lang yan. So we will be accommodating naman. So in itself, the program is going through iterations, and the design itself allows iterations. And then that in turn gets fed into the sophomore year, where tinutulak namin yung validation and founders agreement also. So as early as sophomore year, you're already introduced to the lean startup method, iterative, agile. And then karga-karga na yan throughout fourth year. Hopefully, with that, by third year, some of them will gain market traction.
Mhm.
And then as they win awards, our teams have been winning awards sa Kubo, sa sa mga nagda-grand champion. We're creating a lot of buzz already. People are not hesitant to ask if they can sponsor boot camps and funding. So along the way, we're gaining traction iteratively, and the community is taking notice. And then hopefully by late third year and fourth year, ang grand plan actually is, sorry Patsa, kung hindi nyo na mararanasan to. We're trying to free up fourth year such that puro capstone na lang ang poproblemahin. Kasi we're trying to compete against the pressure of some technology-based incubators na they're pressuring the students to drop out of college.
Yeah.
Ayaw naman namin yun. O sige, compromise. We'll try to free up your fourth year as much as possible. Work on your startup. And then if the VCs, the angels are okay with that arrangement, konti na lang yung pupunuin, then maybe it's a good compromise. And then
Nice.
so that's the all that is happening even prior to the curriculum review, which will be able to overhaul by 2024.
Nice.
So, I have a lot of things to say there. Marami akong gustong tanggalin na subjects. Yung mga nirereklamo ni Pats nun, yan. You, tatanggalin namin yan. We'll replace it.
Di na namin naabutan.
Well, parang sobrang swerte pala to be a student right now. I remember my early days trying to figure out the startup then and wanting to, I want to do my own idea, etc. But there's no proper structure for this. There's no even a proper institution. Everything was sabi ng gantong book, sabi ng gantong YouTube fellow, sabi ng gantong story sa YC, ganito daw yung gawin. It's all coming from that. But seeing now that in practice and in proper measurement and structuring and with around a secure institution when you're encouraged to fail, sobrang swerte, sobrang galing. Parang I'm looking forward to the next 2 or 3 years in the next iteration, and parang the kind of talents that would go out of it, that would produce, as well as the actual businesses na ganun. Parang we're spreading and making that kasi a baseline of what that education should look like. So kiniglabutan ako, sir, kasi ang ganda ang ganda But trying to step back a bit, I'm super curious na yung iterative process na you're implementing here, how much of that was intended, and parang how much of that was because of the nature of what you're teaching. Na given yung what you're teaching is product development, and yung nature niya, it ebbs and it flows, and that there's a natural product cycle. How much of that was pushed because of that nature of the product versus parang it's your own decision, hindi, kailangan iterative yung process natin?
It's all of the above, actually. Early on in my career, and that's how I've been able to leapfrog a lot of my contemporaries, yung learning mindset. Kasi iterative development or design or whatnot is all about what you want to learn along the way. So blanket, diba, learning, diba, the whole program is about learning how to eventually run and sustain the startup, diba? Hopefully in a scalable manner. You're learning what the market needs. You're learning the new technologies. You're learning how to work with each other, diba?
Mm-hmm.
And you cannot because of the fluid nature of everything, more to your point, you cannot do this in a linear fashion na at the end of the semester lang yung feedback. Dapat may feedback mechanisms.
Hmm.
And I further reinforce that with check-ins. Pats, naabutan nyo pa to, di ba, yung check-ins? What
Yep.
did you do last week? Yung retrospective. Yung,
Rocker.
yung influenced by the Scrum methodology. What did you do last week? What did you do this week? What are your obstacles? What help do you need from me, from your teammates, etc. Kailangan nila sagutin yun every week. So yun yung carrying that. And what I wanted to say is I did not know conceptually what to put in the program. Like a lot of things are curated. I attempt to inject my own, but I know sagarbal lang yan eh. Kasi I may not have the right answers. And things were already discussed in a lot of YC YouTube videos, etc. Curation lang and facilitation is yung role namin. And getting out of the way, like basta yung iterative nature, may cohort learning to a certain extent. Kayo magtutulungan, and then we were just there to facilitate and inject our views. We won't impose our views, we will just inject. Kayo pa rin ang bahala. Note that we are not injecting content or ideas. Structure lang ginawa namin. We got out of the way and we let the kids go. So parang gano'n ang And we're just extending it back to freshman year, hopefully. So gano'n yung structure.
I'm super nag-geek out ako on how you're doing the curriculum, Sir Joben. Kasi parang right now, iniisip ko, ano kayang nangyari? Like in a parallel universe, if they didn't hire an ex-startup founder to lead this curriculum, ano kayang itsura ng curriculum? Would it be really rigid na kailangan? Hindi. After, sa thesis lang talaga tayo, third or fourth year ka lang gagawa, or fourth year ka lang gagawa even, but hindi siya iterative like that. And then, baka if ever, babaguhin lang siya after 4-10 years. Saka lang magkakaroon ng curriculum review na ganun. I'm super curious, but of course, that's just my imagination. Super thanks for indulging my questions, Sir Joben. Turning you over for some other curious questions.
Sure.
Yeah,
Thanks for those questions then.
Yeah. And sir, before I go on to my next question, just wanted to say na thank you for explaining that part kasi na-amaze din ako actually. Same thoughts with JD, no, na it's all iterative pala, and honestly medyo naiingit na talaga ako sa mga younger batches na kasi this year it's more new, it's new and improved na, and at the same time I'm very I'm very I'm very amazed with how the ITE program has kung ano na yung narating ng ITE program ngayon. So it's very very nice to hear that, no. So yeah, so my next
Coming
question,
from
sir,
you, that's a big it's a big compliment.
of course, sir. So sir, of course, with the ITE program, we know naman na there are the 3 H's, no. Of course, hacker, hipster, and hustler. So, and our theme and the main topic that we talk about here in Product Camp, of course, is product development. And I think itong topic na to, hindi siya masyado na pag-uusapan kasi we're more focused on the 3 H's. No? So my question is, how does product development or how does product management play a role among the 3 H's?
Okay, kung gusto mo pa mainggit, last month I lodged a request for a new class, product management.
What? What?
And I don't want to get into trouble, and I hear you. Yung strama nyo, yung strategic management, I'm lobbying to change it to product management for IT at least.
Yes.
Because to answer your question, it covers a lot of basically you're running the business already, diba? It can be one product lang or several. but you'd still have someone to oversee that, di ba? You have a portfolio of products. That
Yep.
still falls under product management. Now that
Mhm.
said, o sige, then let's get straight into product management and development. I understand there's a distinction. Uh, the three H's, I'm not a huge fan, especially if you're a startup. Um, I'm not saying that I will force students to code after graduation or to be UX experts, no. But understand enough such that anyway, it's prototyping naman pa lang MVP. Nothing has to be perfect underneath. You just have to show that things work. It's enough for you to be able to work with what you have and learn along the way. Hindi naman mahirap. Kaya nga I wanted to set the tone at the start of this interview na kahit ako, having 3 units lang in college, nagawa ko lahat yon na tech without the proper background. Even my MS in computer science didn't really help, to be honest. It was all self-study. Nakaya rin ng management student yung diving into tech. Now, whether you outsource it eventually for scale is another matter, but at least you own the decision, you own the architecture, you own the design, di ba? Kasi ang hirap is if you're in a situation, and JD, that answers another aspect na ano, what I inherited kasi was that mindset na pwede naman i-outsource lahat. Which, in the olden days kaya kasi you can craft the specs and then you can hand out. But the world is totally chaotic and different now. Hindi pwede. You can't articulate all the requirements, di ba? You have to have that person in the team. Now, whether that person is contractual lang or whatnot, it is not, for all intents and purposes, outsourced, di ba? It's still within the team. Ibang usapan yung employment arrangement, di ba? So product management, product development, whoever leads it need not be the expert in everything. In fact, you shouldn't be yung pinakamatalino doon kasi you will not trust anyone else. Di ba? You will end up doing everything. And then, ba't ka pa nagka-team? Gumastos ka lang. Ikaw na lang gumawa. Di ba? So that person at least has to be influential, should command the respect of everyone, na kahit developer ka, kahit non-technical ka. Kasi I'm sure you'll agree, developers smell blood. Kung ang kausap nila is hindi maalam sa tech, papaikutan yan. You should at least know what you're talking about, cloud, etc., database, etc., para masindak ng konti. Diba? So instead of the developer telling you it will take 5 days to build a receipt na papel lang, pwede mo i-demo nga on the spot, which I did. Kaya in 30 minutes. So don't ever do that to me again. Yung ganun type. So put them in their place. Okay lang naman outsource kasi you have other things to do. You have to manage the business. You have to manage. You have better use of your time. You need to visit customers, etc.
I'm
Kahit hindi ka biz dev, you should at least, well, actually, during my time, I wouldn't treat my clients to lunch. They would treat me to lunch kasi they get free knowledge. And so yung ganong time is better spent. But it's not to say na you should do the coding, you should do the design. So I don't know if I answered your question about the 3 H's. So at the start, stem cell muna kayo lahat. And then you determine, ikaw liver cell ka na, o ikaw kidney cell or ano. Baka premature specialization kasi ang mangyayari if you delineate at the start.
Just to interject, sir, that's one of the, I guess, na-imagine ko na siya as one of the topics since of course na product management, or when do you outsource and do you build it on like on itself, di ba? Parang ang ganun, and parang what are you going to outsource? Are you going to outsource the full system or some parts of the module? Parang it's on its own. But sorry, go ahead, Pats.
No, perfect. Yeah, at least to a certain extent you agree.
Yeah. Thank you for that, sir. Medyo nalinawan na rin, and medyo, product management has been spotlighted finally, no, because I think personally, when we were doing the capstone project, I think yun din product development is one of the most important things, because you're the middleman basically. So, you're the glue for everyone.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and what you said, sir, was really, really on point. So, um, yeah, grabe, inspiring, inspiring. So, sir, we are approaching the end of the podcast now. So, um, I'm curious lang, no, what trends are you seeing here in the Philippines or in Southeast Asia that you're curiously following?
Um, yung trends, okay, I have mixed feelings about that. Like, if you want leading edge, just the way we did it during our time in cloud computing, um, okay yun. And the equivalent of that now will be things involving the metaverse and um, yung Web3, I'm not really a super fan of it yet. Okay. My feeling is the NFT use cases will make sense in a purely digital use case fashion, like the metaverse, diba? So you start buying digital clothes, etc. Or kung hindi man metaverse, some variant of it that will make sense. Yung art provenance might be there, but it doesn't have to be NFT. Pwedeng straight out blockchain na lang yan.
Mm.
So matagal pa yan. So I don't know if it will take a year or two from now pa. Uh, there's the usual artificial intelligence, machine learning, yung mga OCR, object recognition, retail, B2B use cases are catching on. That's the other thing I wanted to change in school kasi medyo B2C centric pa rin.
Mm.
What I wanted to inject is at least B2B kasi nandun yung pera, unfortunately.
Yes.
Diba?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah, I think you agree with that. So the trends around that, yung robotic process automation, AI, etc. Uh, more boring stuff, but they pay the bills, unfortunately.
Mhm.
Um, and then what else? So kung B2C man, the logistics play are picking up na. No? So yung mga dark grocers, cloud kitchen, etc. Now whether or not you'll make money is another matter, but watch that space lang. And then everything that I said, ultimately it's about data that you collect and then what you make out of it and how you are able to sell and derive useful insights. Actually, my consultancies now are mostly data related, kaya my heart is close to it. So being able to anticipate trends and yung bundling ng mga bagay-bagay is what I'm fascinated with right now.
I'm sorry, ang dami ko interjection, pero last na, sir. Inisip ko nga, in the lens of an educator, is it, and might be not the most popular opinion, is it really worth teaching but the bleeding edge ones Kasi inisip ko in terms of practicality, in terms of real world application of it. Since it's bleeding edge, it's something new. You don't have a lot of things na application niya right now and the infrastructure is there. And given the Philippines na we're 3-5 years behind from the bleeding edge, bago pa dumating dito, the use cases, ang kagandahan sa atin po, I believe the use cases are being churned na, are being marinated and matured din na pagdating na sa atin And I guess doon kailangan ituro pa lang siguro yung bleeding edge But on the mature cases, ang hirap lang din siguro mag-focus on that na, I'm trying to implement this like bleeding edge technology to your industry. Because hindi pa rin ripe especially the big ones, the industry, especially B2B. They're not really ripe for that Kailangan konting inch by inch lang Otherwise parang or ganun, I'm not sure. Baka it's a good discussion over coffee sometimes sure kung worth pa ba siyang ituro or baka pwedeng mag-focus muna dun sa other technology.
Regardless, we still teach the leading edge, but we contextualize. Like if you do want to pursue Web3 or yung generative AI, for example, even if the use cases are not there, you will find a few innovator customers that are willing to try it.
Hmm.
And that space alone, you can make money out of it. Walang problema yun. We caution students though na the moment you decide to play in that space, do not expect na magiging successful kayo when you approach mainstream. Kasi kokopyahin kayo ng mga vultures.
Hmm.
Oops, just like what happened to us in Globe. we started Cloud. And Globe is an example of an innovator client.
Customer. Mhm.
When
Yeah.
we were able to prove the use cases na yung mga workloads nila, nakatipid sila ang laki. When there was a mandate now to shift everyone, the larger players, ito yung diskarte eh. Ay, sir, maliit na company, walang pera yan, ganyan, hindi stable yan. Talk to us, we will be able to do that. So, yun yung, doon kami na dali. And then, only to be approached by these larger vendors. O kayo naman may skills, can we outsource to you? Eh, parang, at that point, do you swallow your pride or parang, sige, pera rin, di ba? So,
Mhm.
for coffee discussion na lang yun. But,
Or episode part 2, sir. Part 2 ng product hub.
I don't mind. No problem.
Sige. Sorry, Pats. Again, giving it back to you.
No, grabe. Okay lang, okay lang. Those are grabe, sobrang insightful na ito, ah. Pero sir, yeah, moving on to our very last question. No? So, like I said earlier, every episode, ako talaga yung nagtatanong nito, no? Since uh, basically I'm finishing my minor degree na lang, considered na fresh graduate na ako, no? So, my question is, if you were a fresh graduate today, and you wanted to get a job in the tech industry, how do you go about it?
Okay, how do I answer that? Parang time travel type. Whether it's my experience or the experience of the young graduates I hired in SEER, these were management students also. No tech background whatsoever. They took minors in project management, and when I interviewed them, I knew they were hungry. I knew there was an ounce of regret na hindi nila sineryoso yung tech when they were studying. And kulang na lang magmakaawa sila na tanggapin ko sila na ano. No, I knew naman they were hungry. For me, that was enough. So I hired them. Okay. And the way I try to groom them into the roles involving tech, I started them out with QA, quality assurance testing muna. And then they understood na dapat kung ito yung business requirement, ito dapat yung behavior. So they got into that mindset. And then I moved them to project management. And then I moved them into cloud management. And then they've been getting certifications sa AWS and So na-last nila yun. And then they eventually started running their own business. Actually, one of them is now with Kumu, shout out, si Miles Ong. He's now data engineer, but he was a management student. So he was a pre-sales. He was one of my pre-sales managers in SEER. So yan, kinikwento niya yung struggle niya in university. Now with that backdrop, what would I recommend to the graduates now? I had this notion na the moment we started teaching Python, etc., it would be welcome. Ang napansin ko sa mga students ngayon, they're pushing back. Ayoko mag-Python, ayoko mag-coding. Kung alam nyo lang when you graduate, you're gonna regret not so I'm telling the students now just to take it seriously. That's one. Second is, if you are heavy into group work, you don't have to be the best member, but please don't be a bad group member. Pag sisisihan mo yan, even after graduation, nobody will want to help you. Diba? Critical ngayon yung magkakasama kayo, and you will end up being your support structure. and that matters a lot. Whether you join corporate or you start your own business, the network matters. Eh. One break in the network will really hurt you. And word does get around na booster yan or ano, diba? So, what else did I want to? Just keep an open mind and don't think I'm adversarial. So, alam ni Pats to masungit ako when it comes to people ano, complaining about the tech and ano. I'm doing that because I know what will happen when you graduate. Eh. Ultimately, it's about how do I want Pats to be? How do I want everyone else in his batch to be? I don't want them to suffer what the peers of my hires went through. So yun eh. And so I don't know if that makes sense.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that. Yes, JD. Di ba hear
Yeah.
something?
But actually, sobrang insightful. We were chatting dun sa private chat natin, Sir Joben. I'm not sure if you're seeing it. This is the longest episode we had so far.
Oh,
But
sorry.
no, that's not a. It's like take
Good.
that as a compliment with all the every minute was sobrang full of insights and parang ang ganda kasi sir with your diverse background of being an entrepreneur first and then now teaching it to the younger generations parang it's everyday it's wisdom for you trying to impart them to the new generation po. And I feel like kaya kagandahan din ng conversation super aligned on what we're trying to accomplish here in Product Campus sir kaya ang ganda ng but super thank you sir we hope na magkaroon pa ng part 2 hopefully makita namin yung new iteration nung nung curriculum nyo or maybe product camp can help you can help IT in a way.
We're opening up the curriculum development to industry partners actually. So if you want to co-brand or do a joint workshop, game kami.
Oh, okay. Exciting stuff. Maybe
Yun na.
of what could happen next for product camp. But super open to that and we're super serious to that advocacy as well, Sir Joben. But super thanks, Sir Joben. We've extended a lot and alam namin ang aga nyo preparing for this.
Thanks, Pat.
But as the last question siguro, if any student wanted to reach out to you, ask for your advice when where can they reach you, Sir Joben? Aside from enrolling to IT class.
Well, my email is I don't know if you can flash it, but jbilagan at ateneo.edu. Take note that there's a B kasi a lot of students email jilagan lang. J Ilagan, it goes to a professor in the psych department. So nabubulabog na siya minsan. Ang daming So jbilagan@ateneo.edu. You can look me up through LinkedIn also. Okay lang. Yun less filter yun than Facebook actually. And if you know sila Pats naman and can reach out through them. Okay lang.
And I'm sure a lot of people will reach out to you. Super thanks again, sir. And thanks, Pats, for the wonderful facilitation as well. And with that, thanks again. That's another episode of the camp. Thanks, sir.
Thanks,
sir.
everyone.
Oh yeah. Everybody.